Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our fixture with Manchester City this weekend. And if we can start off with Alan Owen from Sky Sports, please.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, Frank.
Hi.
It's been a bit up and down for you, hasn't it, in the short period in charge? Have you had to lift the mood of the players this week in training at all following last weekend's defeat?
Well, yes and no, because this is the Premier League and it's football. And I came into a situation knowing that it wouldn't be, plain sailing as such in terms of you're going to win games as a process. We're in that process. So we're certainly not going to get derailed from what we're working towards by results because, as I say, it's very difficult to get results in this league. So, no, players have been good, confident, positive, and we work towards the game tomorrow.
A lot's already been said, Frank, about home form and the importance of it from now until the end of the season, of course. But given the current position, it's going to need a bit more than relying on just that, isn't it?
Well, it always will do. In terms of our approach, we won't ever approach and isolate home games. It's a general way that we work, and whether we're playing at Goodison with the backing of our fans or away from home, it hasn't been good enough away from home all season. And there are things that I see that need to be improved on that front. But we have a lot of games to go, so I think we just need to, as I say, keep our heads down and working on the training pitch and trying to pick up results. And against Manchester City, there's a reason why they're top and they're the best team. So we have to understand that and go in and worry about ourselves and try and get a result. But there are a lot of games coming after this one too.
They don't come much harder than Manchester City, as you're well aware. And after their defeat against Tottenham, obviously they're going to be desperate to get back onto winning ways. How do you approach it, a game against a side of this magnitude?
Yeah, I mean, their winning record is incredible this season, as is Liverpool's, because they're still close behind them. But with Manchester City, even when they lose, there are sometimes reasons why they lose, and it generally doesn't look like a normal loss looks in terms of possession and chances, etc. So I'm not looking too much into the actual reaction off the back of Tottenham. I'm just taking them at face value. We have to be very organised. We have to be very aggressive and be prepared to put in the work-like performance it takes against Manchester City, and then take our opportunities to do positive things in the game when we have the ball. They out-possession everybody, sometimes by quite a lot. So we have to have an understanding of how the game may look and just be ready on our part.
You have beaten them before as a manager when you were at Chelsea, of course, got the better of Pep Guardiola. So is there a secret? Is there a certain way of doing it?
No, I've had both experience against his teams of actually playing well and losing a game, playing not so well and winning a game, and then playing very well and beating us again. And I think it's hard to reflect on too much that's gone by us, and maybe some small things in my head from the previous games against them. But I'm at a new club and a new team, so it's a new, fresh approach from my point of view.
Is this the perfect example then of using different styles, formation in the approach to games, or is that something you do in terms of every opposition anyway?
Well, at the moment in my time here, I've been half of my decision on shape or formation has been made for me for injuries. We've had a lot of injuries that I walked into, important ones that happened straight away. So when you lose to strong centre halves, as we've seen in the last couple of years of any team that loses them in the Premier League, it's a difficult thing to manage. So sometimes formation is off that, other times it's a formation to try and help you against the opposition. And of course with City, you need to try and set up as well as you can to negate all their strengths.
So on those injuries, important players, what are the prospects for Demarai Gray and Abdoulaye Doucouré, even Ben Godfrey returning?
Ben Godfrey won't be back. He's still a couple of weeks away, which is always the case with Ben. He's progressing well, but it was always going to be a 5-weekish injury, which gives him another couple of weeks. With Doucouré and Gray, they're both training with us now and in the squad. Which whether they start is an issue for me because Doucouré's been out for, say, 5 weeks now, and with Demarai, we have to make sure that coming into a game of this type of physical output that's needed to get the performance and potential result, it's a big ask. So I'll have to decide whether they're ready to start. But they've both been training with us for the last 2 or 3 days, so it's good to have them back in the squad.
the likes of Damari Gray and maybe Andros Townsend, when he's on the pitch, are they important for you in terms of the service for Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Were you a bit disappointed in what he had last week in terms of what was provided for him, or does he have to make it work himself?
That's all the team issue. That's all the structure of the team. It's not the wingers. It's not Dominic. It's a team issue. If you're gonna, as well as you attack and how well you defend, is all to do with the team. So that's always an absolute team structure issue.
Just finally, me, Frank, the dreadful situation in Ukraine. Obviously, you have Vitaliy Mykolenko there. We've seen a post of his on social media, which is heartbreaking, really. How is he? And obviously, the club are offering as much as they can for him. But is he in a position where he can play football tomorrow?
He's okay. I've spoken to him. The club have spoken to him. He has every bit of support that we can possibly give him from our end in terms of personal touch, club support. If and when he needs it. Who knows how we can help him and how much we can help him, but he knows that support mechanism is there. He's only been here for a short period as well, so it's ultra important that he feels that from us, and he does. The decision of whether to play or be available is between me and him to speak about.
I'll pass on all our best wishes for him.
Thank you very much. Thank you, I will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. We'll go to Olivia Bozaglo, please, at Premier League Productions.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, hello.
I know that results haven't maybe been what you'd have liked in your first few games, but do you think you've seen enough positives in the performances as a whole to know that Everton can get out of a relegation fight?
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have won all of our games, but it's the Premier League and travelling to places like Newcastle and Southampton and being slightly off in times can lead to defeats. And I knew when I was coming here, as I sort of mentioned before, is that when you are playing at this level, you don't expect to come in and wave a magic wand and bring results. So you want to work in steps and see progress. And I've certainly seen that. I've certainly seen it behind the scenes. That's good for us as staff and for the players to feel it at the training ground. We've seen it in 2 really good performances. And then we've maybe seen some of our weaknesses in the 2 defeats, and some of that is reverting to stuff that I saw before I came in and things that I want to correct, but it cannot be corrected in one go. So that's step by step. So I'm pleased with the progress, and yes, I certainly believe in the group that we can get the performances and results that we need.
When you look back on that Spurs performance against Manchester City, I know Everton are going to play their own game, but is that when you look at that performance, is that the best way? Playing like that to beat Manchester City, solid defensively, and having someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, like Harry Kane did, to play such a big part? I
think it's hard to absolutely say that with conviction. I think Tottenham defended very well, defended very organised, closed the distances. But having been a coach and a manager and a player for a long time, I've been in performances where we didn't play well. We defended deep. We got a victory, and everyone tells you after it's a masterclass in defending. It's not necessarily the case. So, as I say, Manchester City normally make things very difficult for you. I think whether you're going to defend high or low up the pitch, the main thing you have to be is together, and you have to be very active and very focused in the game. So, fair play to Tottenham for getting a result there. It's so difficult at the Etihad. But we have to approach it in our own way, and of course take some positives from performances you see previously. But yeah, we'll have our own style and preparation for the game, and the main thing is that players have focus and believe in themselves to get a result.
And like you mentioned earlier, obviously this game is a huge game for both Everton and Manchester City. But in the situation that Everton are in, is it going to be games against teams around you that define your season other than games against someone like Manchester City? Possibly.
I mean, it's difficult to beat Manchester City. Their league record tells you that week in, week out. So we can't put all our eggs in the basket of this game being, a game changer completely, because there are a lot of games left. But what I do want to see, no matter what we do, is an approach of the players with, as I say, a belief in themselves, that we can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And who knows what this game will bring in those terms. But there are a lot of games to be played. There's a lot of football to be played. The teams around us, teams that we have games in hand on. So we have to remain positive. This next game against Manchester City and then travelling to Tottenham are going to be difficult games. And I still won't change my mindset whether we manage to get positive results in both or not. There's a long way to go.
Thank you very much, Frank. Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. We'll go to Alistair McGowan at the BBC, please.
Hi, Frank. I just wondered, obviously, there's been a bit of a mix of results, home and away. Is that something that you've spoken to the players about in terms of why? And I know this has obviously happened with previous managers as well, where results tend to be better at Goodison as opposed to away from home.
Yeah, I have spoken relatively briefly about it because it's an obvious thing that had to be addressed coming in. Our away record since early on in the season has been nowhere near good enough, and there's no point in making any bones about that. It's a fact. So that's something we have to address going forward, and it's some of it can be a mindset thing, and the more it goes on, the more players look at that mindset, and they maybe in difficult moments in games can have tougher times. So that's the first thing, and then of course the rest is about how we prepare for those games, plan for those games, and actually execute it and play. So we're at home tomorrow, and let's hope that we can give the fans a real reason to get behind us as they have done in my 2 games, and to really good effect. And if we can get a positive result tomorrow, then great. And then the problems away from Goodison that we've been having are something I'm definitely wanting to address, and we'll take that one on.
Just wanted to ask you the last question. You mentioned there about Michalenko and the Ukraine conflict at the minute. Obviously, there's a lot of talk as well about Roman Abramovich. USM have got a stake in Everton as well. I just wondered whether you had, as someone who's worked at Chelsea, whether you had any issues with Russian money being in English football.
Well, no, I've always felt myself as at Chelsea for a long time. Signed there under Ken Bates. Signed for Chelsea Football Club, signed now for Everton, went to Manchester City, been at New York City. And I've always found myself to try and be a dedicated worker for the club that I work for in my game. And I know I can get where you're coming from. It's a very difficult question at the moment because of current events. But I'm certainly not going to be drawn on the politics of that for my time at Chelsea or my time at Everton now. I'm here to coach, I'm here to try and make this team better and work at this club. And that's not a question that I want to go and answer it. And if I'm really honest, some of it is, I like to speak about things that I'm absolutely clear on. If you ask me about Manchester City's possession or work off the ball, I'm absolutely clear on that. I'll give you an answer. And without dodging this question exactly, I'm not absolutely clear, so I would hate to give an answer.
Okay, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. We'll go to Chris at Radio Merseyside, please.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
For someone who's still relatively early in your managerial career, when you've gone up against Pep Guardiola and considering the success that he's had, what have you learned from going up against him?
Well, I mean, a lot, because every time you go up against him, you feel a very complete team, a team that's been worked on by a fantastic coach for a long period of time, a team that has fantastic players, and a team that doesn't show many weaknesses, whether they're weaknesses of how they play with the ball or how they defend off the ball. So it's not only the in-game feeling you get from that, but it's also when you prepare and you see them and you find it's very difficult to find gaps in their play, which is all credit to them. So yeah, I love going up against a team managed by a manager like that, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, great managers that have achieved so much in the Premier League, and they test you, and that's great.
And you mentioned in the last few weeks you've had concerns after the Newcastle and Southampton games in terms of heads dropping when you went behind. Have you been working on anything behind the scenes in order to counteract that?
Yeah, and it's quite simple for me. Like, you always want to work on the environment, and it's important that you make sure that we're never too low after defeats and never too high after victories. That's important always. But the only way to combat lack of confidence or these things is to go on a training ground and work. Lots of detail, lots of things that are game related. The players start to believe in that, and then they'll believe in themselves. So yeah, we've been working across the board on that.
And just finally, Frank, on yourself, actually, it's the first time that you managed a team that's lower down in the league, either that's the Premier League or the Championship. Have you found yourself doing anything differently in your managerial style compared to when you were at Derby and Chelsea? Yeah, but all jobs are different. You know, at Derby, the long Championship season, difficult moments, good moments. At Chelsea, a young team,
inconsistent moments, some great moments. So there are lots of differences, and it's hard to put fingers on them. You just have to try and, when you start working with the players, find out very quickly what are the priorities and you want to change. Focus on the job in hand, which is trying to get results, and that means we need to up performance. And I think we've done that. I certainly feel like we've done that, and particularly, of course, at Goodison. And that's the things we want to take forward. So yeah, it's different challenges, but that is the nature of the job.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.